I think what's exciting about what we do is that uncertainty every time you walk into a studio. It's like you're
a little bit apprehensive.
You are, and you're almost like a bit like a court jester. You know, you're on show. The photographer doesn't like it. You've got to go in and be able to change it. It's very instant. You're right, mate. It's a good tattoo, that is. You okay?
Everything's good. Thanks.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Quite emotional, actually, for me, be sat here with you. You know, with the history of, you know, with the company, and you know, being an assistant back in the days in Birmingham, watching all your shows, and
you've lost your accent. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it kind of.
Probably one of the hottest talents around at the moment in the world of fashion, and obviously the world of hair, Paul Hanlon. Paul, great to see you. You know, the thing is, you guys phoned me up and you said, look, we're getting this show ready. For Moschino. Tell me a little bit about where the idea came from, how and what you really want to say with this idea, you know, for the show.
So Jeremy called me. He called me on the phone. He's like, Paul, I've got this idea for the hair, and you've got to do it. Otherwise, I'm not doing the show. Okay, I said, listen. I'm all in, but you've got to give me time, because I know that what you're going to ask me, even before I kind of knew where he was going to go with it, it was going to be something that needed labour, work, and it wasn't about just walking backstage with a hairbrush and doing it. We've used, how many packets of hair, Kim? 300 packets of hair? Oh my God, how many models? It's 45, it's all the big girls. It was funny how the idea came about, actually, because, and you won't believe this, but he sent me a picture from, I think it was 1982 Salaron show. And the girls had their hair all scraped back, and they all had this, like, it was a little accessory. It was made out of feathers, like a little plume. So I had the image on my phone, and I dropped my phone, and it cracked. And as I picked it up, where the cracks had actually appeared were all on the top of the head. So I was with my assistant Kim. So I started drawing on it with a pen. And I started to think about like this sort of like crystallization and like kryptonite, and when you see kind of in nature in the caves or the, you know, the ice thing. And I was like, wow, this is onto something. So he spoke to me about the idea of punk, and it was like goth, but very extreme. But it had to look, he kept saying I want it to look couture. Panos, you got a pic. I mean, it's like, it's insane. Nobody does this anymore. Oh, Jeremy.
I came from my hair appointment.
And just really quickly to jump in, don't get obsessed about the ponytail, okay? You don't see this, okay? It's 2.5 months of work that people don't realise. They see a show that lasts 5 minutes, they've got no idea. And that's why it's like celebrating the industry, the craft in what we do, that it isn't just picking up a pair of scissors and cutting hair. There's a lot more to it. So I started to play with the idea of making hair that it wasn't hair anymore. And so I said to Jeremy, okay, you know, this is a big thing. So last week I flew to Milan to show him. Yeah. And so we made 2 versions. We did the one we were doing and a more calmer one. And I knew in my heart that I was going to put, whatever it was, I was going to sell him that. It had to be that. He knew that I was going to, you know, he could see my energy. At the end of the day, you've got to love it, you know. I mean, I've got to love it that much that it justifies that I don't see my son for weeks at a time. And
you brought him yesterday, though.
Yeah, no, bless him. They're very sweet. I think it was so funny after yesterday because, you know, he was so tired, and I think it kind of clicked. I realised, you know, the sort of the labour, you know, we're on our feet all the time, you know, it's, you know, but I try to teach him what you put in is you get it out, you know. I thought that what I'm going to do is on all of his little spikes that he made, every time we make one headpiece, I'm going to cut one little piece that he made and use them in the things. Every wig was a piece of his hair in it, like one of the little bits that he ironed kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a personal thing for me as well. So, you know, we all think of punk. Sometimes I think people see it maybe as a more kind of, not dirty, but gritty. Yeah. They don't see it as a polished thing. No. So the idea of taking this kind of attitude, but in a more polished way. And as soon as I sort of started to understand the concept, it was just these sort of alarm bells started to ring, and it reminded me a lot of like all the, you know, in the 80s you were doing all the stuff, the silhouette. It was like when you were using hair not as hair, it was almost like your hair was your material, like, you know, a painter uses his paints and his oils. So I started to play with the idea of making hair that it wasn't hair anymore, things that we could make organic. I think it was Philip Kingsley once said, hair is a gown that you never take off. You know, it's the idea that, you know, without, not being funny, but without something like this, it would have a very different kind of, it would, you know, read very differently. Yes, chin down. Major. The last piece. 320 packets of hair later. I think that's there now. And it's done.
Después de 2 meses de trabajo.
Thank you very much.
That's so good, Dad.
Oh, thanks, son.
Oh, bravo.
So good, no? We did it. We did it. Just finished now. Quite emotional.